Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial on North Shore 1049. My name is Marc Freedman. I'm President and CEO of Freedman Financial, located in Peabody, Massachusetts. Hope you're doing well. Our firm was started back in 1968 by my father, Barry Freedman. The firm was started all the way back then, but we are still up and running. We are 51 years into this thing, heading into year 52. Dad retired in 2007, so that's almost 12 years ago, and Dad left us. Not left us, I mean, he left the business. Dad's still alive. Marion Gilman, my business partner, joined us in 2000, and Marion's not with us today, but she does sit in on these shows periodically, especially when we want to talk about economics and talking about what's going on in the marketplace. But today I thought we'd kind of just talk about retirement and some of the myths that exist around retirement, some of the things that they're somewhat old wives' tales. In fact, there's an organization out of MIT that is called the Age Lab. And many of our clients have had the opportunity to visit the Age Lab because periodically we do field trips. Some little events where we get to expose our clients to some of the really deep and smart thinking that's going on about how the world will adapt to the aging population. Because at some point, well, actually right now, the truth is there are more people over the age of 65 than there are people under the age of 17. Think about that. There's more people over the age of 65 than there are people under the age of 17. You might think, okay, that makes sense. A lot of people I know that are older than 65. But get this. Did you know that 75% of all people who have ever lived to the age of 80 are alive today? 75% of all people over the age of 80 who have ever lived are alive today. 75%. It's a pretty wild thing when you think back how many people back in 1820 lived to the age of 80 plus. A very small, tiny little percentage of the population. And even this, when President Roosevelt launched the New Deal and rolled out the Social Security legislation that allowed us to start collecting some Social Security benefits, you were able to be considered at full retirement age at age 65, yet life expectancy for many was not even 65, it was in the early 60s. So that's kind of strange when you think 1935 to 2019, where we are today. That's less than 100 years. And life expectancy today is not 60, but it's probably closer to 83, 84. If you're 65 years old today, you have a greater than 70% chance now, if you live in a middle to upper middle income household, of living beyond 90 years old. I say upper middle because the number is actually 50% if we include everybody. If you're in a lower income household, the likelihood at age 65 that you will live to age 90 shrinks dramatically. In fact, if you're in the lowest segment, the low income, or at the poverty level, which is someone that makes under, say, $11,000 a year, there's only a 17% chance that that 65-year-old will live to age 90. So it's interesting facts and figures that come out of the Age Lab at MIT. And one of the things that they've developed is this program called 8,000 Days. And I've talked about this on the radio a couple times. But 8,000 days, imagine this. You could break down the 4 segments of your life by 8,000 day segments. The first 3 are rather well defined. Birth to graduating high school is roughly 8,000 days. Then the next phase, 18 to say 35 years old, roughly another 8,000 days. You could say that's the development phase. You know you're going to have to find a job. You're likely going to start a family. You'll have some children. You'll have a mortgage payment. Lots of things that will happen in that. You know that stuff is supposed to happen during that window. And then you reach, let's say, age 35 to 55 or so. You get your best job. You're starting to make the most amount of money. You're involved in a number of different things because you're involved in your kid's life, your life, job, promotion, and then you start to phase into that midlife crisis period of time, like the kids are empty nesting. What am I going to do now? And then you hit, let's say, age 65, and I got those ages off a little bit, but 65 and beyond is another 8,000 days. 8,000 days was not what somebody thought of when you think about your grandparents and your great-grandparents of living 8,000 days in retirement. What was the likelihood that they were going to live to age 90 or 100? And what kind of quality of life were they expecting to have once they hit age 65? Well, that looks a lot different for today's retiree. A person that chooses to retire at age 65 has a lot of great energy, a lot of great life, a lot of great thoughts, possibilities in front of them. So they break down those 8,000 days into some segments to try to help you understand, because it's not about what the Love Boat used to be. You know, you'd finish working around 65 after being with the company for 30-something years. They throw you a retirement party, you get the watch, then you go on a cruise with your wife, and they throw streamers, and you have your bon voyage party, you have your nice dance with the little trio that plays down on the Lido deck. You exit from the cruise ship, you go back to your house, you hang out, you invite the grandkids, they all come to the house for dinner every Sunday, or they visit you on a Saturday. Then you go visit the kids periodically for the holidays, and then you die. And that's basically what would happen, right? Well, I can tell you, retirees, if you're a retiree listening to this show, and I know many of you do, you know that's not the case anymore. When you retire from your first job, you're likely to enter what we call the honeymoon phase of retirement. Because there's so much that you say, oh my God, there's so many things I want to do. But you're not really fully retired either. You may be retired from your job, but you realize, well, I can't just stop working altogether. Maybe I'll do some part-time stuff. Maybe I'll take on a consulting job. A lot of people who leave their place of business, the employer comes back to them and says, hey, how'd you like to do some consulting work for us? Or you find something in another field. Or you find something that you've always wished of doing. You're not doing it for the money, but you're doing it because you love to do it. But it's still part of your day. You're making some commitments. I have to be there from 9 to 3 every day, or whatever it is. But you also fill in some vacations. You get to see some shows. You get to really enjoy yourself. And chances are, at retirement, you're still living in the same place. And then you get to that next phase. After about 2,000 days, call it, I don't know, 6 or 7 years into retirement, you begin to realize, you know what? I'm really going to do it. I'm going to stop working. So now, it's all about consumption. It's about you figuring out a way to spend money to support your life from pension, Social Security, and the assets that you've accumulated. Because no more is there a paycheck coming in anymore. It's all done. And you begin to think to yourself, well, I'm not going to be working anymore, so what are we going to do? I'm going to travel? But how much traveling can I really do? You begin to look around the house and you begin to think to yourself, is this the house that we're going to stay in forever? Do we want to make some modifications? Is it time to make some upgrades, or should we be downsizing? What's going on with the kids? Because the kids are now probably in their 30s and 40s and maybe even in their 50s. The grandkids are getting a little older. They don't seem to have much time for you anymore. And in fact, they're not coming over on Sundays for dinner, and they're busy. And as much as you might like to see them and do stuff with them, they've got stuff going on, and they just don't have the time for it. So what do you do during that period of time? And then comes the third period, which is this longevity phase. You just get to the point where you're feeling like, you know, I'm just too tired to do a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do. I still want to do a few things. Maybe I go and visit my friends, and friends are real important during this stage. I want to go to the senior center, or I want to go visit with my friends to play cards, or we go out for lunch, or we meet to play mahjong, or whatever it is that you choose to do. But you're also beginning to realize that the house that you're in probably isn't the house that you should be staying in, because the stairs are getting a little tougher. You don't want to be cutting the lawn anymore. You don't want to be shoveling the driveway. You don't want to be cleaning the house. You don't want to be scrubbing the toilets. Maybe your medical situation is getting to a point where most of your days are filled with doctor's visits, and you're taking a lot of medication, and sometimes you're forgetting to take that medication. And you need some help to be remembering that. And you're starting to see some of your faculties really start to slow down. And that could happen, that could stretch out for a long period of time. It's not about a year anymore. It's about a long time where this slowly extends out, because medical science is helping us stay longer. And then the worst phase, and this is what happens, is that you're a couple, but then you're a solo. And you're alone. And you think to yourself, now what? Well, what if the person who passes away first is the person that paid all the bills? that made all the decisions, that signed you up and made reservations at dinner or got you involved in social activities. And now all of a sudden there's a new community of widowers that you may want to connect yourself with, or maybe you can't, or maybe you need help. And maybe the kids who have all moved to different parts of the country now aren't as readily as accessible, and you get bitter because you think, well, my parents, I did that for my parents, or my parents did that for their parents, but my kids aren't as close as they are. They can't give me the time that I think I've earned. And it's frustrating, because how do you deal with all those things? Part of the 8,000 days presentation that the Age Lab has developed talks about that. What do we do, and how do we leverage technology? How do we leverage technology that's truly out there to help us live our best life in all phases of 8,000 days? So just something to think about. So one of the stories that they rolled out for breaking old age myths, I thought I'd share with you. We'll do it this segment, we'll do it the next segment, we'll share a few of them. One of the biggest myths out there is that it used to be, when I turn 65, I'm going to retire. Well, you know, I always ask people, what does retirement really mean? Retirement can sometimes mean, I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. And sometimes retirement means, I've been at this job for 30 years, I'm doing nothing, I'm just taking my pension, I'm just going to sit on my butt on the front porch, drink lemonade, and just watch life go by. Well, I will tell you, those people that do that die early. They do. If you're not active, if you're not staying involved both physically and mentally, all the medical statistics show you will die early, because you'll just grow miserable. It's true. So what do you do? At age 65, people aren't retiring anymore. I can't tell you how many people I'm running into that are saying, you know what, Mark? I'm at least working until age 70, and I'm not even going to take my Social Security until age 70, because they've finally gotten the message that if they wait until age 70, they get almost 32% more in monthly benefit than they do if they had taken it at what's called full retirement age, which is now in the 66 plus range, will be up to 67 soon. Why would you bother? If you're going to keep working, just stick it out. And you know what I've found? Years ago, 20 years ago, it used to be, well, there's this age discrimination. You know, the bosses were getting rid of the old folks to let the new kids in. It's not happening so much anymore. Maybe for some of these startups and all that kind of stuff, which is a risky venture to start with. If you could join a startup, you could be employed for a year or two, or you could be employed for 2 weeks because the money just dried up, or you could have hit it big and really work for them for 5 years, but when you hit it big, then the company gets sold, you get your cash, and you move on to another startup. That's not what the older generation wants to do. The older generation wants to make a contribution every day, and they have great loyalty and pride in the relationships that they have with their clients. They have great loyalty to themselves to say, you know what, I'm going to show up on time. It matters how I look when I show up to work. It matters that I'm presenting myself appropriately, that I'm using my words carefully in the workplace, and that I'm contributing every day. We need more people like that. We need more people who respect the workplace environment, who find value in being part of something where they're truly contributing, but contributing within the scope of what the work guidelines are. Not trying to ask the boss, well, I know the hours are 8:30 to 5, but that really doesn't work for my schedule. How would you feel if I showed up around 10 and I worked until about 3, and then I'd work from home from like 6 to 9? Will that work for you? You know, some employers are good with that. But there's a lot of employers that want the loyal person that just come in and do your job, take great pride in it. Look, I've got a client of ours who is in his 80s, who absolutely just wants to keep working. Not because he needs the money, he just wants to keep doing it. And you know what he does? He bags groceries, because he feels like he's making a contribution every single day. He loves interacting with the people. He loves keeping himself active. There is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think it's great. And you know, talk about somebody who's going to be friendly when you go to buy your groceries. I mean, he's going to talk to you. He's not going to not be looking at his phone while he's bagging the groceries. No, he's not doing that. The aging community, those that are in their 60s and into their 70s provide tremendous, tremendous work ethic and value to the workplace. And they are highly sought after. Don't give up on yourself. Recognize that maybe the job that you're doing, which was weighing you down, says, we got to slow down a little bit. I got to get out of this environment. There are plenty of other environments where you will thrive and you will make the most of it and you will be a great employee. That's just one of the old age myths we're talking about today. I want to bring back some other old age myths. We got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll talk about that. But in the meantime, if you'd like to sign up for our free weekly newsletter, it's called Planning Pointers. Go to my website, FriedmanFinancial.com. That's Freedman, 2 E's and a D, financial.com. Go to the bottom of any page. Sign up for our newsletter. You'll get it this Friday. I'll tell you more about that. And so many more old myths about getting old age myths that are just, we got to talk about this stuff. We'll be right back. You're listening to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial on North Shore 104.9.
Dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with